Welcome back, everybody. In this video, we will analyze the game that has just finished a few hours ago from the Serbian Team Chess Championship, in which international master Miloš Stanković was white and grandmaster Danilo Milanovic was black. Miloš is a good friend of ours. He commentated some live broadcasts on our Serbian channel some years back, and we are always happy to see him play a good game, like it was today. Grandmaster Milanovic is defending with the Scandinavian Defense, which is nowadays very popular. And he retreats the queen to d6. Other options are queen a5 or queen d8. Maybe queen d6 is nowadays the most popular. And knight c6. This move is a little bit unusual. I would say, I guess usually black should play a6 or c6 or develop this bishop. The purpose of knight c6 is to put a quick pressure on the white center. However, I really like the white's reaction here, as he quickly expanded in the center and pushed the knight away from c6. The tactical point is that you cannot really take the pawn, because you can maybe pause the video for a few minutes and try to find a solution. Otherwise, I will show you. So this is the famous trick where you sacrifice a piece temporarily on d5 to make the double attack with your knight, actually even triple attack, but you will recapture the queen. And white is a full piece up. Okay, going back to the game. So d5 is untouchable. And black played knight b4. Now the pawn is attacked 3 times. White has to protect it with the pawn. And now Grandmaster Milanovic played knight a6. This is not the first time that he has this position on the board. Some maybe 10 years ago, in the game against Grandmaster Kovačević, he played e6. And Kovačević played queen a4. But maybe a3 is slightly better. And now queen a4. And this is a normal position where white maybe has just the slightest of advantages because of the c6 pawn, which is isolated, and it can be weak later in the endgame. Just be careful here not to take on c6. This would be a huge mistake because your queen is trapped after bishop d7. So this square is taken away by the knight. So just be careful about that. Okay, going back to the game. After c4, this time Milanovic immediately retreated to a6. This gave the time to white to develop his light square bishop. He's preparing to castle. e6 now, and white castled. This is a great move, actually. You don't care about the pawn on d5. You just want to castle and complete the development as soon as possible, because black is slightly behind. Let's just count the pieces into place. So knight, bishop, and knight. White has 3 pieces in the play, black only 2, and on the top of that, white also castled. Black needs at least 2 moves to castle, so we can say that white has already earned some tempi, and this is really good for him. So black took on d5, and now rook e1 check. So you immediately start to harass the opponent's king that is now stuck in the center. Bishop e7, and now queen e2. You are doubling down on the e file to prevent black from castling. So he cannot castle now because the bishop is dropping. So this is already a very good position for white. I really like it. I'm not saying that black is already lost, but he has to be very careful how to continue playing if he wants to keep the pawn up and maybe just find his chances in the end game. So he played knight c5, which was a mistake. Actually, it was important to play c6 first and to kick this knight away, because otherwise you will see later in the game this knight did a lot of damage. So here white can continue knight d4, and now black should play knight c5. His idea is to play knight e6 and cover the e file and prepare himself to castle. Knight f5 is now a very good move, putting further pressure on the bishop and on pawn on g7. Let's say black actually takes the bishop first. Now you don't recapture immediately with the queen. You play knight g7, check. If you play knight e7, so here already many pieces are hanging and you have to calculate precisely. If you play knight e7, the huge point for black is that he can make this Zwischenzug in between move that is now earning tempi against the white queen. You don't have time to make a discovered attack because you will get also checked by the knight. So you have to take the knight on c1, but now already black has time for bishop e6. You will get your knight out because he cannot take it due to the pin, but still now black managed to castle. He still has maybe some trouble to connect the rooks, but he's already maybe slightly better because he has the extra pawn and he managed to hold onto his material advantage without suffering other damage. So back here, so don't take on e7, take on g7 instead, and this is continuing the attack. Now we already threatened the discovered check and to take the queen. Here just calmly take back, and you still have the same threats. So he has to play king g8, and now you just pick up the bishop. Here actually white is some material down. He's an exchange down, but his position is overwhelming. Black is almost in Zugzwang. He has no good moves. So for example, he cannot develop this bishop in a good way. If he plays bishop g4, it's met with knight e5. So this is really a fantastic position for white. So instead of taking on d3 here, he should take the knight with the bishop, and just to try to cover this e file with his knight to enable himself to castle. So white can take on d5 and give this check. He managed to do something, so he broke the black castle, but black still managed to keep the extra pawn. So this is a position where white has compensation for the material, but he has to be careful not to lose the thread of black can bring his queen into play and connect the rooks. Then maybe he can even be slightly better later. You cannot really take this pawn because the rook will recapture here. Going back to the game where black missed the chance to play c6, so he played knight c5, and this was strongly met with bishop f4. Now this c7 pawn is hanging, and I guess black was counting on knight e6, which is a good move, protecting, which is supposedly a good move, protecting c7 and covering the e file, but it's not working. It fails to tactics because white can take on c7 anyway, but with the bishop, of course, not with the knight. We will see the point. So if he takes back, now first queen e7, check. And now when the queen is pinned on the e file, don't take the queen immediately. First check like this, because the queen is pinned, it cannot take it. You win this tempo, you need this crucial tempo. Now take the queen, and now pick up the rook. So you're left with an extra piece. King d7 is met with knight e5, so you cannot prevent black knight from coming back into play. Just be careful here in this position. First knight c7, and then take the queen. Don't take the queen immediately, or you will lose material. So since knight e6 is failing, so black tried to play the castle. But now, no, white can simply pick up the pawn. Even bishop c7 was good, because now if queen d2, you just simply retreat your bishop on c2, and you are threatening knight e5, which is quite strong. The rook d1. e7 is also hanging, don't forget that, so you have to take care about that first. And this is really difficult for black. Okay, so he took with the knight. Knight e6, rushing to defend, but you can simply pick up the rook. And now he can take the bishop here, but we have a beautiful move now, bishop h7, which is stepping away from the attack, and allows white to just capture the bishop on e7. Now, after all, black is forced to exchange because otherwise rook is dropping. So when the dust has settled, white is on exchange up. The position is still not easy. You cannot claim it's winning. You need to coordinate your pieces a little bit, because they are just thrown all over the board. And now he's rushing to bring the knight back into play. Knight g6, this is a good move, so it kicks the rook away from the 7th rank. The most solid is to just go back and continue to connect your pieces. Bishop d7, this is good because it takes away b5 from the knight. And now bishop c6, still keeping the knight sort of in a cage. Luckily for white, he has a very good move, knight d4, which is attacking the bishop. And black is playing like this in the hope to establish a piece on d3, either bishop or a knight, but still it's a very strong outpost. Probably he would prefer to have a knight there, because it can attack some white's pieces. Okay, white is finally managing to bring the knight back. And f3 now. I really like this move because it's kicking away the white bishop from the very good square. It takes away this square from the knight in the future. So it's quite good. Also, small piece of advice. So now black has the light square bishop. You don't have any bishops, say not even the light square or dark square. So it's a good idea to put your pawns on the light squares. So just to take away some squares, some squares away from the black bishop. Of course, your pawns can be targets, so you have to be careful about that. Just try to find a good measure between restricting the opponent's bishop and making your pawns weak. Still here, I would slightly prefer bishop g6, because I think I would like to have the knight here. And now if g3, already knight is, doing some mess. So it's not really ideal for white. He's a little bit on defensive here. I mean, white is still winning, but he will have more trouble coordinating his pieces. Instead of g3, maybe just rook e7 here and attack the pawn on b7 again. Okay, so black played here bishop d3. g3 now kicked this knight away, which is a very good move. It cannot, it can no longer come to d3. This is provoking white to take on b7, which is not bad, but it's not easy to estimate the resulting position, because you get some exchange and maybe you will lose these two pawns, and you cannot really be sure if you can just win the resulting position. So let's check it out. Knight b7, the rook is coming in. You eliminate this dangerous piece, but black has this passed pawn. It's still technically winning for white, but it might not be so easy. I mean, I'm not there to say it's an easy win for white. So probably Miloš wanted to avoid this position. Why to allow black any chance when you can just continue to strangle him like this? You will find from the position of strength, when you're white here and you have material advantage, and you can choose which pieces to change and when. So just be mindful about that. Don't accept any exchange that black is offering, because sometimes these exchanges can help him relieve the pressure that he's feeling on the position. This is now already time trouble, I guess, but this version is much better for white because he's still keeping some a pawn on the board. Here they repeated a couple of times just to reach the time control. This is move 38. Now king h3, of course. You don't want to allow the perpetual check. You see how pawns are on white squares and limited the black bishop. We still got into some sort of the position where black has the passed pawn, but it's not that good as it was in the previous analysis when he had two knights, because now already he's in huge trouble with this pawn probably dropping. There is no good way to defend it because king g8, simply rook d8. And this was move 41. So after rook a7, black resigned. And Miloš scored a really nice win with the white pieces against the Scandinavian Defense. Thank you everyone for watching, and see you soon in one of our future videos.